make the country what he wanted it to be. It wasn't overnight. So for people that don't know the history of Russia, I implore you, please learn about it.
In their faces, basically to get them to be like, "I like this is fine, like it's a meme, like haha, kiki, ooh woo." But seeing this being applied to politics is so scary, especially when we have things going on like Sudan, genocide in Gaza, our First Amendment and constitutional rights being taken from right under us. Hello, Beyond the Mic Politics. Long time no see. It's been a while since Abby and I have been on your screens. As always, I'm Yaya.
And I'm Abby.
And we are super excited slash disappointed slash scared to be once again talking about the political state of the United States. We're going to be doing two topics today. First is going to be the very unfortunate shutting down of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and subsequently NPR and PBS. And then we're going to talk about something a little bit more abstract that I've been seeing. It's a topic I've been seeing circulating around social media for a while, and that's the memification of politics. And I think, we have a Gen Z audience. What better topic to explore? So, firstly, let's talk about the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. I have their little address that they have that they put out on August 1st. And they said that despite the extraordinary efforts of millions of Americans who called, wrote, and petitioned Congress to preserve federal funding for CPB, we now face the difficult reality of closing our operations. So I think this is the first thing that I want to get into because they mentioned like millions of Americans wanted to prevent this from happening. And I think it really shows the impact of closing down something like CPB. I keep getting that mixed up, and it also shows, I guess, the disconnect between the current like citizens of the US and our elected officials, because I don't think anybody would want something like PBS to be shut down. Like Arthur, what has Arthur done to anybody? So Abby, talk to me a little bit about your feelings on that.
I think it's insanely dangerous that we're having like the public broadcasting kind of shut down from millions of Americans. I mean, when you look at its original purpose, it was mainly to keep people informed based on public interest. So the shutting down of public broadcasting is insanely dangerous, especially to our democracy as it is. People This was created to serve the public interest, to make receiving information and news more accessible, providing high quality programming that informs and educates audiences and often entertains them as well. And oftentimes, well, this was mainly created to avoid that kind of like influence that different companies and their commercials can have on their audiences. When you look at all the programming that's been on there, when you look at specifically children's programming, you can see that a lot of it's foundational, whether that be they're educating them in math, English, or even just how to be as a citizen. When we look at like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, all those lessons of friendships and accepting people as they are and embracing other people's cultures, personalities, and different facets of themselves was a main point on there. Like even Mr. Rogers back in, I want to say the 90s, I was looking at a video. He was defending the funding of PBS, citing the impact that his show and other shows have on children. He recited this one like poem or song, and I was like, "Oh my God, if only people who are elected right now heard that today, they might understand, they might not. I don't know, maybe they need to hear as a kid." No, no shade, but like it's
You're in
just
the
it's
truth.
unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And I know personally growing up, like I remember like, those like small nuggets of those shows. And honestly, in hindsight, they've impacted my life. They have. And even when it comes to like the conversation of what do kids watch, there used to be the Disney and Nickelodeon debate. I was like, is there a third option for PBS Kids? That was what I grew up on. So it's heartbreaking to see that my kids in the future generations might not have that in this country. And then also it does have big implications on the freedom of our First Amendment and journalism in general. So It's really concerning. It really is.
It is. And I really want to emphasize the point that you made about how this is going to impact kids because, like, we see it all the time. Like, the children cannot read. The children cannot read. The children cannot do simple maths anymore. And it's things like Sesame Street that really help children, like, especially their really formative years, really retain that kind of stuff. It's not just about seeing, like, colorful puppets on a screen singing songs and bringing in celebrity guests or whatever. Like, this is really fundamental to children's development, and especially maybe people that are living in like low income areas and stuff like that. Maybe they can't afford cable, maybe the radio is all that they have. To receive this type of education, to receive this type of information, that is for me the foundation of a working and healthy democracy. And literally I always think about this, but like an uneducated population can never resist. So where does that start? That literally is starting from the generation after us, because now we've gone through our formative years. Like, now we're in college, you and I graduated, we're about to go into the workforce and stuff like that. So it's like we already had that. But now for this new generation of kids that like they can't do anything basically, and they're watching freaking brain rot all day. I literally can't tell you the amount of times I've had to tell my cousins to turn off the TV or switch the channel because what they were watching was absolute nonsense. I tried to put my cousin onto Bubble Guppies one time, and she was being such a hater. First of all, she's like 9. She was being such a hater. She was like, "What is this? Like, what is this song even?" But meanwhile, she's watching YouTube videos about what would happen if Ronaldo was actually skinny and working on construction sites before and didn't become a world famous footballer. Like, what are we doing? Like, we're literally losing recipes. And the fact that the Trump administration is so against like having this type of like institution in place, I think is really telling, because it's like, you don't want the kids to learn. You don't want the kids to be educated. You don't want the kids to have critical thinking skills so that when they get to our age and they start voting, they're going to vote for voters like you. That's that's what I think. It's really scary to me.
No, and kind of to go off of that, I mean, like, as you said, it's impacting the education of children. I mean, already we're seeing what the Department of Education being thrown in circles. I'm not gonna lie, I've had to take a break from the news because it's been so much. I see like the headlines I get from like my New York Times push notifications, but I've literally had to take a break. So like even for this, I had to do a little bit of a deep dive because I'm just
Okay.
like I have to protect myself too. Like I have to protect myself. Putting me first. I'm not gonna lie. But
No one can
even
fault you for that.
and even going beyond like just kids, ready? The kids in rural areas, or better yet, just the rural population in general, they're already suffering with a lot of news deserts. I once drove through a town in Blair Mill County, which is like 30 minutes from Penn State. And I kid you not, as we were driving up the road, I see newspaper like firms just completely shuttered down. I don't see newspapers in any stands. You don't really see any of that. Most of their news comes from like the Altoona Mirror, which I think is the closest newspaper to them. So it really put into perspective for me what type of access, like, I mean, usually people in like more urban or suburban populations have versus rural areas. And to add insult to injury, sure you can get some information from the internet, but how about those rural areas that don't have sufficient broadband access? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Now they're at even more of a disparity without public broadcasting.
And I think that's such a great point. Like, because you bring up news deserts, and I think that's so important because now, like, when we talk about like the news, a lot of people think of like the big stations like MSNBC, think of CNN, we think of Fox and things like that, NBC, but those are not the news stations that are catering to rural areas, that are catering to those smaller towns. So the fact that this administration feels so comfortable with taking away funding that is directly impacting these smaller areas in terms of what they need to know and the access to information that they're having, I think is so scary, because information is power, like no matter what. And you brought up the internet too. And I think it's very scary, especially like with the rise of AI and stuff. Like, for me, it feels like a lot of things on the internet now, a lot of people that are saying like they're like influencer journalists or like people putting out news and stuff, like a lot of people that do that, I think nowadays are acting in bad faith, especially with the use of AI. You can't tell real from fake anymore, which we should do a whole episode on that actually, because it's
Mm.
terrifying. And we've had some quite riveting discussions in the group chat. To our dear viewers, the group chat once in a while does blow up for about an hour, but it's like really scary. So you need trained journalists and trained professionals who are good at gathering information and then disseminating that information in a way that's accessible and digestible to people. We need those in those types of areas the most. And so shutting down something like NPR is going to be so detrimental. And it's really hypocritical for me, what that this is coming from somebody that says he's from the working class. We can tell that you don't want your constituents to be actually informed on what you're doing. Like, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, like there's no way somebody in their right mind can actually look and listen to what the president says on a daily even hourly basis, and think that this person is for the working class. Because if he was, or if he was a champion of democracy, if he was whatever, he would be the first to be upholding free press. It's literally in our First Amendment. Like, this president is literally going against the Constitution amendment by amendment, and we are watching it happen. We're literally watching it happen. It's literally so scary.
And I think it becomes more, I guess, partisan, bipartisan. I'm forgetting which definition is which. Um, but even like going into that, listen, your Second Amendment rights, they're not necessarily safe either. I get it. It seems like they are, but guess what? Once somebody takes an inch, they take another inch, they take another inch, then it becomes a foot, and then before you know it, you're at 2 miles. How'd
Right.
that happen?
Right.
Slow
Exactly.
and steady. Slow and steady wins the race, unfortunately.
Exactly.
Like,
And he knows that. And Mr.
uh-huh.
47 knows that. He knows that. Oh my, because let's not forget the Second Amendment was put there in case of a tyrannical government. So when the government is
Mm.
becoming tyrannical and you want to get your little AK-47 out to stop the National Guard from busting through your door. And then they're like, actually, you can't do that anymore. But hey, see, we're saying it now on Beyond the Mic Politics, guys. The day the Second Amendment goes away, I want y'all to rewatch this episode because Abby Shashute called it. She called it.
I'm telling you, and then we could do a whole episode on the parallels between the state of Russia and the US's direction right now. I'm not going to dive too far into it, but I will say this. Listen, when Vladimir Putin was trying to do this, that, and the third with Russia, he used legal measures, he used economic power, and he really just exploited those powers to really make the country what he wanted it to be. It wasn't overnight. So for people that don't know the history of Russia, I implore you, please learn about it. Learn about how they got to where they are right now. Because guess what? When I look at the president and how he's shaking hands with a lot of these big companies and corporations, and all of a sudden a late night show gets canceled because of budget cuts, I want you to look and try to draw those parallels with critical thinking skills, please.
Please.
Because what's going on with CBS it really should concern you as well.
Exactly. And that is a great way to close out this topic. Let's get into the memification of politics. I want to ask you, Abby, so you know the Jet 2 holiday trend on TikTok,
Uh-huh.
right? Nothing beats a Jet 2 holiday. I never skip those videos. But I was very concerned, and I'm wondering if you saw the video too. The White House posting a video of them, of people that they captured, that ICE like detained, and then posting that sound to videos of them, and then putting them like in a plane and with like handcuffs and stuff. Like, roll the clip.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday. And right now, you can save £50 per person. That's £200 off for a family of 4.
I haven't. Wait, I actually need to see
Girl,
that.
let me. I think it's so like dystopian to see how like the White House administration is like tapping into like Gen Z culture. And we're seeing this now like with all politicians, like Zoran Mamdani, bless his heart. You know what I'm saying? As excited I am to see his trajectory, like he's definitely tapping into the Gen Z culture. Kamala Harris's her TikTok page that she was running, and they were using like brat and stuff like that, like trying to appeal to the younger generation. Donald Trump's Trump Gaza um video, that AI one. You remember that one? We watched it in the studio together.
Oh, that one. Oh God,
That
I'm
one,
sorry.
yeah, that one was yeah, that one was I don't even want to talk about it. But like we're increasingly seeing politicians using memes um, to connect to their younger audiences. The other
Mm.
side to this now is we're seeing these audiences using memes to talk about the state of politics right now, but it's getting to a point where people are becoming a bit desensitized to it. And it reminds me of this so I took a terrorist class last semester with a professor in Penn State. I don't know if I should name him. I don't want him to get no smoke. So let me not do that.
Yeah,
We
no.
love that professor down. And we talked about NVEs, which is nihilistic violent something. Let me look this up right now. NVE. Nihilistic. It's like just oh my gosh. Nihilistic violent extremism, right? And a really big part of NVE as like a quote unquote ideology was memification to get people that get sucked into it, this type of ideology, like desensitized because they were saying some awful stuff, awful stuff on these like servers and stuff. And they're using memes and putting them in their faces, basically to get them to be like, "I like this is fine, like it's a meme, like haha, kiki, ooh, ooh." But seeing this being applied to politics is so scary, especially when we have things going on like Sudan, genocide in Gaza, our First Amendment and constitutional rights being taken from right under us. And to see them being kind of reflected in memes makes people be like, oh, haha, this is so funny. Like the world, like the dog in a burning room, ha 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 ha. But like, this is serious and this has real life ramifications. So I just put a lot of information at you from what stood out to you the most? Like give me some commentary on that.
I think it's like it's definitely like a multi-sided, I'm forgetting the word for it. A multifaceted, there we go. It's definitely a multifaceted topic because on one hand, memes are meant to make you laugh and maybe in a way make you cope with what's going on. But on the other hand, we have to be careful because people are dying, quite literally. Like these aren't just memes. There are people, their families, there are people behind all of those memes, all of them. So we need to make sure that even though we're trying to cope with our feelings, we have to consider what's going on and how we're going to proceed forward. Are we just going to keep on making memes and laughing? Or are we going to take action somehow to support people who are being impacted by things going on around the world? So on that hand, memes, I mean, I don't see them going away anytime soon. I think that it's definitely going to become more and more relevant, more prevalent as younger generations come up into political roles. And I'm not gonna lie, it makes me question what's like a presidential campaign gonna look like when we're in our 40s, 50s. Like, also, this is a whole other thing, people's digital footprints.
Ooh.
How will that play a part in presidential campaigns? Because don't get me wrong, yeah, there are past videos of the current president and current cabinet members and their interviews and everything. But now we're gonna have an era of people who made videos and posted them themselves. These weren't like interviews they were invited to be on. But kind of going back to the meme thing, um, you can see the impact it has on some people, even in politics, like seeing how people are laughing at them or like the videos are being circulated online, and them trying to actually mitigate that. In fact, there was actually a Norwegian tourist who told a story about being denied entry into the US after US border agents found a photoshopped image of the vice president, and they named it dangerous extremist propaganda. And I will send this into the editors. This is the photo. This is very extremist propaganda. I'm sure.
Wait, let me see. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up right now. Wait, I think I
Very
actually know what you're talking
extremist.
about.
So
Baby
dangerous.
Dan.
Uh, and as you're looking that up, I guess I'll add this story got out. Right, right. So extremist, so scary. Oh my
So
God.
scary. Like, oh my
Gives
God,
me
I'm about to
chills.
put them on the national terrorist,
Right.
whatever it is they have, terrorist database. Bye.
And it's so funny because once the story got out, obviously our generation, we don't mess with people trying to leverage power like that. We don't. That's something I've realized. We stand on business. We do.
You do.
But you know what everybody did? They took a screenshot of that, put that as their profile picture, and commented on the post. So you just see a whole bunch of in the profile picture, a whole bunch of people. I'm sure if you look on there right now, what it's August right now,
Yeah.
I'm sure if you look on there, you'll find some people who still have that profile picture. I'm sure if you look up the videos. It's great because the thing is, if you're making a big, first of all, when you're growing up, you learn if you make a big deal about something, people will continue to tease you about it. They will. When you're trying to control it and be like, no, you can't do that, blah, blah, blah. People are going to take that and run with it. That's how our generation grew up.
Exactly.
So I really don't know what this administration was thinking with, oh yeah, if something is embarrassing, I guess. Like, I don't know. I don't know how they made that determination that it was extremist, wait, no, dangerous extremist propaganda. But them cracking down on that picture just made it worse.
Exactly.
They just made it worse. But
Exactly. And I think that raises a good point of like how like internet culture and like memes and stuff is like being used as like a form of communication. Like you remember the DBQs that you had to do and like pre-AP and AP history and stuff. Like
oh my
just like
God.
that.
I'm sorry. You just really you woke up a oh my God.
I took it way back, way
Whoa.
back.
Oh
Yup.
my God.
Mind you, high school was like it's been 4 years since we graduated high school.
Right. Oh my God. That was like it feels like an era ago for real.
I
And
know.
what?
But this type of stuff is going to be on the DBQs and stuff. So we'll see that. But I want to go back to the idea of like now politicians using memes. It's like sometimes it's like
Mhm.
kind of cringe. Just like, okay, like you're like 50 years old talking about it's a Kamala Harris is a brat. I'm like, Kamala Harris is for the brats. I don't know. It's funny sometimes, but then other times it's like, girl, like people can't eat. Like eggs is
Yeah.
$20. I don't really care if you listen to Charlie XCX. Like, there's merits in trying to fit in with Gen Z, obviously, because we're like the younger population, like starting to vote and stuff. But it's like, I feel like there's a line to be drawn when it doesn't become about actual policy anymore and it just becomes like a competition of like who can win the youngsters over. Like, we literally don't care if you're tapped into our meme culture. Like, can you get us affordable education? Can you get inflation? Can you enact some type of fiscal or monetary policy that will help future generations be able to buy a house at a reasonable price? And then going back to this Trump Jet 2 holiday video, this is where the
Mhm.
desensitization comes in. And I think that is so scary because it's like we're literally watching in real time people lose empathy for humans that do not look like them, that do not come from the same places as them. And you brought up you brought up a very good point, and I'm searching for it right now. Nah, I lost it. But you brought up a very
Oh
good point
goodness.
about something about the younger generations. There you go. The younger generations coming up and like, how presidential elections are going to look then. And I think that in this era that we're in now, like we're starting to lose empathy. And I think that empathy is, oh shoot, Jim is over in 10 minutes. Anyways, in this generation, we're starting to lose empathy for people that don't look like us. And I think that the memification of politics, it has a huge role in that. And I think when these people that are coming behind us, when they're at our age or when they're at the age to be actually running for politics and running for office, like they're gonna lose that. They're gonna lose that empathy because they grew up seeing really important and tense issues like immigration, like racism, be treated as a meme. Like I don't know if you saw, if you were watching Love Island season 7, but there was a picture circulating around of Huda being posted on Derek Chauvin's body and Olandria being on George Floyd's body with Derek Chauvin on George Floyd's neck. It was Huda on Olandria's neck. Like just that type of stuff. That's not politics, but that's like type of stuff that I'm saying that's like people are just not going to care about each other from in like 15 years from now. And that is going to hugely affect what politics looks like in the next 3, 4, 5 election cycles.
No, yeah. And kind of going back to that, it's like, I'm not gonna lie, I do want to comment on that. It's literally a TV show. Like, people have to separate that. Like, listen, people, there are different cuts of whatever scenes. Why are we dragging it into this type of content? Like, what happened to George Floyd was tragic. It was tragic and a result of a very broken system. And there was a whole, I mean, there's a whole story on how they knew each other and everything. It was tragic. It's a result of a broken system, as I said. Why are we mixing it? So where was that? Oh, do you guys not feel bad anymore? Is that what's going on? Like, oh, it's like, oh, well, it's just
Then
another.
I'm never gonna meet them, you know, they'll never see
Right.
me in real life. And that's again that's we can get into a whole conversation about social media and morality and stuff like that, but we do not have time for that,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately.
Mm-mm. But yeah, it's ridiculous. This empathy, this lack of empathy, like, yeah, it will have an impact. Hopefully, we can bounce back as a generation and find it again. But at the same time, I am gonna make this one, I guess, I don't know if this would be devil's advocate, but in terms of people losing empathy, when you're hit with so much information about what's going on, you're so like worried about yourself. That can happen where it's like, oh, well, that person over there, I don't really care, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. But all at the same time, it's a psychological thing where it's like, well, I'm suffering. Well, I'm not suffering as much as that person. That's an insane way to think. But I feel like a lot of people in our generation are like, well, I'm worrying about me, and they're becoming very selfish.
Yeah, it's
That's the one thing. I don't know
and
if I said that well.
no, you definitely did, definitely, because I think I feel the exact same way, and I think that's why it's so like important that we have like people running for office that still kind of exude that. This is not Zoran Mamdani propaganda, but I just really like him as a candidate. I think he's going to do good things if the Democratic Party lets him. But like, it's important for our representatives to kind of have that as a priority. And going back to the PBS and the NPR conversation, again, like that's why journalism is so important, because you get to see stories of people that may not necessarily that are in your community, sometimes outside of your community, and you get to understand or at least get a glimpse into what they're how they're living, what their lives look like, who they are as people. So I think this administration overall is going towards a very like individualistic I guess individualistic society. We're trying to move that way, which America always has been pretty individualistic. But I think this new emphasis on apathy for others and really just being like, as long as my side is good, like I don't really care what the rest of y'all do, is so dangerous. But for some reason, it has been very effective because the guy's the president for the second time.
And then I kind of want to add to that. I guess I wish I said this earlier, but in terms of having empathy for others, things that happens to another community impacts you, whether you realize it or not. It always impacts you. Always. So if it's not empathy, it's being selfish in a different way, I guess. Like, worry about that community because you're worried about you too. Like, I don't
Yeah,
know. Like,
exactly.
however you have to put it, care about someone. Like, I don't know. Yeah,
Exactly.
but
And MLK said it best: injustice somewhere is injustice everywhere.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that is how we're gonna wrap that episode. We are so excited. I'm going to be back in the United States because I'm currently not in the United States right now. I'm going to be back in the US, so hopefully things are going to be easier in terms of timing wise. Everybody's going to be back on their grind, back on their routine. So BTM Politics will be back on your screens regularly very, 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 very soon. We are so excited to give you guys more content, even if more content comes at the expense of our constitutionally given rights. But that is okay because the content is going to be amazing. So thank you so much for sticking with us through this dry period. We're back now. Make sure you check out BTM Sports and BTM Entertainment, and we will be back on your screens very, very soon.